Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Michael and I are joined again here on Skype, again on the 29th of July, 2023, for our second session of the day. Welcome, Michael.
Welcome, Brett.
It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, same goes from my direction to your direction, in the east to west direction, yes. So next session is coming up. We have talked about much about the March or the end of February, when that supposedly visit of Bruce Lee of his old Jesuit school then happened. And you have to ask many questions, because you can assume that when Bob Baker accompanied Bruce, you can assume that Bob Baker came from the United States and brought also some drugs to Bruce Lee. So let's move on. And guns, of course. Yeah, you remember, there's also one thing that Bruce Lee and Clint Eastwood have in common, is their love of guns. Sunday, April the 15th. When filming a new opening scene for Enter the Dragon, the famous monk scene with Sammo Hung noticed that Bruce Lee's pupils are dilated. Tell me, Brett, what cause could that have?
Ooh, more than likely, that means you are high.
Okay.
More than likely, marijuana or hash oil.
Okay, so that would go in line with the visit of Bruce Baker a few weeks ago.
Yes, absolutely.
According to Robert Chan and Robert Klaus, that's the director's book about Enter the Dragon, Lee tried to dissuade an old friend from using drugs. He spent some time trying to send the man to a rehabilitation center but failed. The addict's dealer must have known. Lee got a doctor to visit his friend and continued paying for medicine until he found out that the guy was selling the vitamins to raise cash for more drugs. The irony isn't that Lee was a drug addict, but that he didn't get the munchies after taking reefer. Sam asked Bruce why he lost weight, to which latter responded that he wanted to be faster. By the middle of the month, the latest issue of Milky Way was already out. The issue reveals that Bruce intends to return to America in May in order to do publicity for Enter the Dragon. 2 years later, Bruce's wife Linda revealed in her first book that August was when he was going to do this. It was a decision that he had made during his American medical trip in late May. The April 73 issue of Milky Way made it clear that Bruce was now a wanted commodity due to the photos of James Coburn visiting him in Hong Kong to discuss rekindling the silent flute. You know, the circle of iron, what later was been realized with David Carradine. By the way, circle of iron, I thought about that also. Interesting title. Circle is round, of course. Yeah, round things are a symbol for spirit. Yeah, and iron is, of course, a symbol for Mars. So it's the spirit of Mars or martial arts. Circle of Iron happened to be then the final title, which was supposed to be the silent flute before. Let's move on. Sunday, April 22nd, Bruce sent letter to Ted Ashley. This Warner Brothers studio chairman was born in 1922. Bruce beats around the bush by hinting that he had a bad experience making a film with a person and organization in Hong Kong, to the extent of describing himself as being burned during that one time. No one interviewed Ted Ashley about Enter the Dragon. It's too late to interview him because he died in 2002. It's also very interesting in the case of other celebrities. No one asked valid questions to the real persons. Yes, it's very interesting. Monday, April the 30th. The end of the month is the end of Bruce Tether. In spite of Raymond Chow's media manipulation which suggests otherwise, they were not on happy terms. Bruce's brother Peter testified to this. Reading Everett L. Schustrom's Man the Manipulator 2 years prior made Bruce appear to be ill-advised by comparison. Linda could be accused of being manipulative since she didn't like living in Hong Kong and missed her loved ones. She placed insurance on Bruce's life through a company called Lloyd's of London for over $1 million. What incriminates her more is that he listed his total earnings on his federal income tax as a mere $17,000. In her first book, Linda claimed that the end of April was when Bruce finally made the decision that he wanted to move back to California, fornication of Cali, we talked about this, with the intention of only going to Hong Kong twice per year or so to make movies a la Jackie Chan during his Hollywood heyday. Yeah. You see, this is the official newspaper, and we know from John Swinton that newspapers are all controlled and they do not tell the truth. Yeah, Raymond Chow and Bruce Lee are on happy terms, and they are not on happy terms. Saturday, May the 5th, the insurance policies had come into place. This is creepily reminiscent of the Chinese stuntman in 1981 drama featuring Dan Inocento. It was planned because he didn't dance to the tune of the Triads. In 1971, he had to be restrained from wailing on rival hustlers when Lo Wei, the dragon head of Sunny Ong Triad, so the head of a triad, the director Lo Wei, paid to film the park scene of Fist of Fury. Linda was all too aware that his refusal could hamper the well-being of their two kids. In Robert Clouse' 1987 book about Enter the Dragon, his wife Anne had this to say about Linda, quote, "Her only problem, or so it seemed at the time, was her fear the children might be kidnapped for ransom, something not uncommon in Hong Kong. It was perhaps the only thing that distracted her from being totally absorbed by Bruce." Unquote. I have to make it a little bit so you see. Thursday, May the 10th. During a break in the dubbing session of Enter the Dragon at the Golden Harvest Studio. You remember, that is the address where Bruce wanted to send his comedies with, so drugs and guns and all the stuff, to the address of his butler at Golden Harvest Studios, so once and for all. Thursday, May the 10th. During a break in the dubbing session of Enter the Dragon at the Golden Harvest Studio, he collapses in a man's room and pretends that he is looking for his glasses. A studio assistant helps him walk to the dubbing room, but Lee collapses, vomits spaghetti and convulses. After 17:00 means 5 p.m., Raymond calls Baptist Hospital with the intent of asking to talk with his own physician instead of phoning the paramedics. The doctors presume that he is poisoned because of a combination of kidney failure and brain swelling. The drug that saved his life was mannitol because it tends to be used to flush out a lethal excess of sodium. And please compare the timeline. Isn't it all too obvious that in May 5th the insurance policy had come into place?
Man.
And 5 days later, when we have learned that Linda Lee, April the 30th, Linda Lee places insurance on Bruce's life through a company called Lloyd's of London. This is a well-known, worldly famous insurance company, Lloyd's of London, for over $1 million. And on May the 5th, the insurance policy had come into place, and the event happened on Thursday, May the 10th. You don't need to be a prophet to combine the dots.
Well, that's the first attempt at his life, and it failed.
Yes. It has failed because it happened in a public place, in a company. It did not happen officially.
So what? That doesn't make sense. Well, why didn't Bruce put 2 and 2 together and get the hell out of there?
You ask me. I'm not that egomaniac like Bruce Lee.
Yeah, that's right. That's
of course I would say that if I survive this and I have a family and 2 children, I would get the hell out of Hong Kong.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you had half a brain, you get the hell out.
Yes. Because it happened as Golden Harvest Studios. That is the company of Raymond Chow, so I would suspect that a studio assistant helps him. You see that there were witnesses. Yeah, so they could not go through with their script or with their agenda to let it happen on purpose. And most likely, He did have hash brownies or so. That's why I have here incorporated a picture of Nepal temple balls. Temple balls. You see, this all has to do with the temple, with your brain and with the spiritual things. Yeah, Nepalese temple balls. And I have read the comment that he was eating these temple balls during the day. And one of them might be not quite that good, so might be poisoned or what else. Because when somebody collapses, vomits, and convulses, yeah, you can say that there is a high chance of being poisoned. It is not an aquagesic. It was not a medical pill the first time. So, and taking the timeline into consideration and into consideration that Bob Baker showed up in end of February, beginning of March, whatsoever, shortly before, that's one hint. But the biggest hint, I think, it happened during a dubbing session. That means that the movie has been shot. So the producers and the companies all were safe because the film has been shot. It had only to be edited and dubbed over. But all the stages, all the scenes, everything has been finished. It did not happen during the takes. It did not happen during the time that he was shooting Enter the Dragon. It happened after he was finishing the Enter the Dragon, which made him world famous. And it was a collaboration with the American company for the first time. It happened after everything had been shot. That's it. That's for me the key thing. After the shot. Not when Bruce was hectic and he was barely sleeping and was totally overpowered and what else. Yeah, he had to do 50,000 retakes or so. No, he was just sitting in a dubbing studio. Come on, it's not that kind of hard work to sit in a chair and to dub over something. So don't come with overtraining and was drinking too much water and what else. He was at Golden Harvest Studio. It happened at Golden Harvest Studio. And the second time it happens, officially on the 20th of July, it happened with the collaboration of Raymond Chow again. And if something is happening again with somebody who's affiliated with Golden Harvest, then you have to count 1 and 1 together and you get 2. There are no these coincidences. So this is the conclusion of Pop Cult Master, and I would add that the doctors presume that he is poisoned because of a combination of kidney failure and brain swelling. And it could been several things, but we can assume that it was treated Nepalese temple balls. This is very strong hashish or grass. And on the day of the 20th of July, in the official autopsy, they found also marijuana in his stomach. So, that's it. My remark, after the movie has been shot completely.
Mm-hmm.
We have read in former sessions, millions were on the line. And the producers and the people, the millionaires, they want to be safe. That in case that anything will happen, the movie will make money. Hong Kong is being infamous for money making. It's a trade.
And not only that, but if someone died after making such a production, then it would become even more popular because, he just died? What?
Yeah, like Kurt Cobain, Nirvana, and many, many other bands and stuff.
Other.
Sure.
Yeah, James Dean.
James Dean, yeah, thanks, yeah.
There's a prime example way back in the history of movies.
Yeah, my prime example is here the comparison between May the 5th and May the 10th.
Yes. That's right. That's no accident.
No accident. Who are the masters of poison? We will soon find out.
We know so well, don't we, Michael?
So, May the 10th, this was the day when Lo Wei, speaking of the former director, None But the Brave movie was released. Cheng Pei, first movie for Golden Harvest, would have received more publicity had Lead died. Exit the Dragon, Enter the Phoenix rising through the ashes of the decayed dragon. The events of May 10th were foreshadowed by the calendar of the January 1973 issue of Golden Movie News, where Cheng was on the April page while Bruce was on the May page. Interesting, huh? There is somebody who's really clever who has made that remark here. This is just a quotation here of Popcorn Master. What makes it even less of a coincidence is that the actress and actor were signed to Golden Harvest in the summer of 1971 by Lo Wei's wife Gladys Liu. After the filming of Enter the Dragon had finally come to an end, Bruce told Golden Harvest founder Raymond Chow that he wanted certain stuntmen to work exclusively for him, and he wanted to be informed of their whereabouts at all times. In late April, an insurance policy was ordered on Bruce. It came into effect on May the 5th. On May the 10th, Bruce suffered a collapse at the Golden Harvest studio because of an event that was a combination of food poisoning and cannabis poisoning. He fell into a coma and almost died. He was in medical care from May the 10th to May the 13th. By the time that it was May the 25th, Bruce was in Los Angeles for a detailed checkup. In the interim, he was more concerned with his health and insurance than on filmmaking. Bruce returned to Hong Kong on June the 8th. In the interim, he couldn't keep track of his favorite stunt man. Friday, May the 25th. Bruce goes to Los Angeles for a checkup and is told by a physician that he has got a body that is akin to an 18-year-old. Dr. David Reisbord, a neurologist at UCLA. On May the 29th and 30th, Bruce was given a full battery of tests available to patients of that era. A complete physical brain flow study, and an EEG. As he awaited the results, Bruce called John Saxon, his co-star on Enter the Dragon, to tell him that he had come to town for medical tests. "What's the matter?" Saxon asked. "I've been fainting." "Why? Are you okay?" "Maybe if the tests don't work out, there isn't going to be a Bruce Lee." After nervously waiting 3 days for the verdict, the news was good. Dr. Reisbord gave Bruce a clean bill of health. He had found no abnormalities in his brain functions and nothing wrong with his entire body. In fact, Reisbord told Bruce that he had the body of an 18-year-old. Reisbord concluded that Bruce had suffered from a grand mal idiopathic, which means a seizure with no apparent cause. Repeat, no apparent cause. Dr. Reisbord prescribed the drug Dilantin, which is commonly used to treat epilepsy. None of Bruce's family ever suffered from epilepsy, even in a mild form, and Bruce had never suffered from it either, Linda, his wife, asserts. Dr. Reisbord told me that at no time had Bruce suffered from epilepsy. A diagnosis of epilepsy requires at least 2 separate incidents. This was the first time Bruce Lee had suffered a seizure. The Hong Kong neurosurgeon blamed the hash. The LA neurosurgeon didn't know what caused the collapse. Neither of them considered a far more common collapse for seizure, etc., and death in young health men, that is heat stroke. And this is coming from a book of Matthew Polly, Heat Stroke. Because he was in a closed compartment at a dubbing studio. The fatality rate for young athletes and soldiers who suffer heat stroke is 3 to 5%. It's the 3rd most common killer of athletes and rises to 1st during the hottest months of summer. I have a counter-argument on that. Because on the script of Popcorn Master, I find that remark. Andrew Morgan, employed at Golden Harvest, about the location of the finale in the mirror room. The thing I most remember about the mirrored room was the oppressive heat and trying to keep all of the damn mirrors clean from dirt and grease. My remark, what about heat stroke then? Obviously, it didn't appear during the movie with all the acrobatics and stress and oppressive heat. It only happened 5 days after the insurance policy was in charge. A neurologist subscribes him Dilantin, which is used for the management of epilepsy. Bruce is told to take it 3 times per day. It was only on July 20th that he didn't take the drug. Strange.
What?
I don't know where that guy has this information. I'm just recording that script of him. During this Los Angeles trip, Bruce called one of his two sisters about wanting her to return to Hong Kong in July so as to be his manager since he needed help with the accounting. Phoebe Lee was working as an accountant for United Airlines at the time. She said that she would think about it. For 13 years, she dated one of his childhood friends, the aforementioned Robert Chan. Biographer Robert Klaus never specified what argument had ended their relationship. Thursday, May the 31st. Lee meets the Japanese author of The Incomparable Fighter for the final time. The man whose name is often abbreviated to M. Uehara had observed that Lee was emaciated. His waist only measured 26 inches. Lee tried to get out of it by saying that the camera adds 10 pounds, so his 120 pounds frame would be 130 pounds in front of a lens. In actual fact, he did not know why his weight loss was happening. His lower back pain was so immense that his constant cortisone injections caused muscle atrophy. Bruce proved to M. Uehara that he was more powerful than ever when getting him to hold a cushion so that Bruce could deliver a punch that was 6 inches away. The cushion landed at the far corner at the room. From May the 25th to June the 7th, Bruce Lee was in America for 14 days. That's enough time to film scenes for another movie behind his back. Thursday, June the 7th. Bruce attends the last of his physicals. He meets Bob Wall for the last time because, not Bob Baker, Bob Wall for the last time because he will be returning to Hong Kong on the next day. Like Maria Yee, Bob noticed that Bruce repeats himself like he's telling an anecdote for the first time. Earlier that week, Bruce sent a letter to Run Shaw where he told him that he will reserve a few months for the Shaw Brothers project, that is the competition company of Shaw Brothers, from September to November. George Lee, no relation to the name, verified this and even went as far as making an axe for Bruce to wield in the movie. Bruce sent a letter saying that he liked George's photo of it, but Bruce never got the chance to receive it because George intended to give him for when he moved back to America, which never happened. June the 8th. Golden Harvest founder Raymond Chow had a connection to the police in the form of a voice actor named Ted Thomas. From Chow's perspective, Ted could be used as a spy since he was moonlighting as a dubbing artist for Golden Harvest and Shaw Brothers, so for both competitive companies. On the night that Bruce died, Ted was having dinner with the commissioner of the Hong Kong police, so he could be an informant. According to his LinkedIn page, Ted was the director of public relations for the Hong Kong police from March 71 to June 73. What a coincidence. Ted's departure is suspicious because early June was when Chief Superintendent Peter Godber retired after the anti-corruption branch wanted to know how he accumulated so much money in his bank account. Peter also served as deputy district commander of Kowloon. He left Hong Kong on June 8th, the day that Bruce returned from the United States, where he went to receive intensive medical analysis after deadly cannabis intoxication. Here is another example of suspicious timing. Sergeant Louis Locke retired from the police in the period between Bruce's death in July and October, when Hong Kong Governor Murray McLehose made a proposal for there to be an independent commission against corruption. This is very interesting because of that name. The inquest into Bruce's death happened in September, and the Independent Commission Against Corruption was formed in February 74. The below man is Lee Ka-ting. He confirmed that Bruce was going to take some of the finest Hong Kong stuntmen with him for his Hollywood career. Remember, $10 million to be the first American superstar in Hollywood. Lee Ka-ting was looking forward to it much that he was not only purchased a house in America, but he came up with an anglicized name for himself, Steve Lee. He was part of the same social circle that Bodo Yang belonged to. After making of Enter the Dragon, Bodo spoke of the martial artist named Lau Tai Chuan. Quote, "This fellow was the Asian boxing champion and had loudly protested Bruce Lee's status in the martial arts world. Bruce ignored the comments for months, but eventually decided enough was enough. He contacted the police chief and said, 'I will fight this guy if you can guarantee me that nobody else will know about it, because I don't want to give this guy publicity. Otherwise, this will never stop.' The police chief agreed. Bruce and his other martial artists were contacted as to the time and place. The whole bout lasted less than 30 seconds. Bruce then pulled out his checkbook and wrote a check out in the fallen boxer's name in order to pay the hospital expenses necessary to stitch the man back up. Apparently, the police chief didn't keep the secret very private, and soon word of Bruce Lee's encounter reached me while I was on the set. I asked Bruce if the encounter was true. Bruce nodded grimly in the affirmative and told me, "Keep it to yourself." Can you imagine that that guy had a lot of enemies? If word of Bruce's challenge match had reached Bolo, then it was bound to have reached the ears of Bolo's ex-cup buddy, Michael Chan. And there we are at the number 2 of the 40K triad. Michael Chan Wei Man, which we have talked about several times. A journalist named To Wai Tang said in the colonial area of Hong Kong the power of the police was very great. The detective of the plainclothes police is called Deng Sheng. He has another title that is the chairman of the Chinese Martial Arts Association in Hong Kong. He was very interested in what would happen if Lau Ten Chuan's Western boxing went against Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. Because he has a lot of power and he is also a friend of Bruce, he said to him, "Lau Chao Chen wants to challenge you. How about a secret fight?" Bruce said it's okay, don't make it public. So if 2 fighters fought one match at a secret location in the new territories. So there is so much things going on behind the curtain and behind the scenes that we are not aware of. We have only just some accounts here. Police instructor Larry Lee had personally witnessed Bruce's televised martial arts demonstration in Hong Kong 1970. This was when Bruce tried to get a deal with Shaw Brothers before he signed with Golden Harvest Raymond Shaw in June 1971. Larry's interest in witnessing Bruce's power in person is suspect. I suspect that Larry was called upon by the police to see if Bruce was up to his own tricks, since he left Hong Kong as a teenager under incriminating circumstances. In 1959, teenage Bruce was told that staying in Hong Kong would result in him being slaughtered by vengeful trials or being arrested if he got into any more fights. So you see, the official police report is nonsense and doesn't make sense. It's about the autopsy and the events taking place on the day of July the 20th. I wonder why the police investigators would do such sloppy work. Are they part of a cover-up? Who knows? Oh, this is quite obvious, actually. Because whom to trust when the chief superintendent of the Royal Hong Kong Police Force had to flee and was sentenced to 4 years in prison, huh? It happened in 1973. Yeah, on 7th June of 1973. And on 8th June, the day when Bruce Lee came back from the United States, the Royal Hong Kong Police Superintendent, Chief Superintendent, was fleeing back to United Kingdom. What a coincidence. Yeah, so there was corruption taking place. He had on his, he had the equivalent of Hong Kong dollars, 4.4 millions. Yeah, and that is United States dollars, 865,000 in 1973. This is corruption. You can't take any police action, any police report, you can't take them seriously. Yeah? When you know that there is a list of Chinese criminal organizations in Shanghai, Macau, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan, the number of people, Wikipedia tells you, has risen from 100,000 in 1986 to 1.5 million in the year 2000. Yes. So this is Peter Fitzroy Godber, the former chief superintendent of the Royal Hong Kong Police. Bribery scandal. 4 years in prison. A police superintendent. Yeah. So the police is not the police that you think they are. Especially not in Hong Kong, and especially not on June and July 1973. So that was the worst time ever of somebody found dead in Hong Kong. Because the police does not work, obviously. Bruce Lee, in its 1988 biography about him, his director, Klaus, claimed that June was when Bruce finished dubbing some dialogue in Burbank that he had been poorly recorded in Hong Kong. One of the questions that has arisen is why didn't Bruce leave Hong Kong after the May mishap? That is the same question that we have talked about. Hong Kong kindergartens finish in June, whereas elementary equivalents finish in July. He didn't want his 2 children to be behind the peers when resuming their education in America. In the April 1978 issue of Fighting Stars, Van Williams, the star of the Green Hornet, mentioned that he saw Bruce a month before he died. Van said he had a lot of problems. The Chinese mafia approached him about certain things. I don't know what the whole story was, and he had some problems with the press over there. And I have that interview. Moving further, Wednesday, June the 13th, the Hong Kong press reported that Lee wasn't happy about Lo Wei making a movie in Bangkok with dragon in the title, so Lee tried to legally trademark the word since its name in Chinese translates as Lee Little Dragon. Lo was supposed to have changed the title as a result of Bruce's outburst, but the movie came out in December with dragons still being in the English and Chinese titles. Haha, yeah. So he wanted to sue anybody. As much as Bruce would have lied to threaten Lo Wei in person, he couldn't. From late May to early July, Lo was directing Jimmy Wang Yu in Thailand. So Bruce has been portrayed as a mystical, empowered fighter. Many would-be masters challenged through the media. Yeah, so Lau Tao Cheng challenged movie star Lee on Hong Kong television broadcast from the newspaper South China Review. Or Hong Kong producer offers movie to Lau for Lee's head. Yeah, so many would-be masters challenged through the media and on the street. The Hong Kong film industry offers movie contracts for those who can beat Bruce Lee. Yeah, you see that is open hostility on the Hong Kong streets towards Bruce Lee. And you tell me that he was staying in Hong Kong because of his children. Yeah, you have to believe it. I don't know what is the truth. But here in The Curse of the Dragon, a documentary from 1993, it's been stated that the industry offers movie contracts to anyone who can defeat Bruce Lee. So, is it true or is it not true? I can't read Chinese newspapers. Yeah. So it was like a shootout in the OK Corral. Yeah. I mean, guys would come and they challenged him on the street. There was a thing where he's got to take up the challenge. And Bruce would mostly stand in the street. There was a thing where they stand there and he knew he was better. Then they would ignore it, walk away from it. Sometimes he couldn't and these guys would get hurt. Yeah. So you know the old Chinese dilemma of losing face then, huh? Yeah, these were fierce encounters, and Bruce, I think, best of all of them, I mean, realistically, he was incredibly fast, he had timing reflexes. Anybody to this day, I defy anybody to this day to match but Bruce. Well, the problem is that if you have enemies all over the place, and if you are a movie hero, then everybody wants to challenge you, wants to be better, and what's that kind of a lifestyle? You live behind golden bars, we say in German. Or in golden cage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and many people are a student of Bruce Lee. Herb Jackson says one time one fellow got over that wall, got into his yard and challenged him. So they broke into his house. This is Herb Jackson telling here. Yeah. And Bruce got so mad that he gave the guy the hardest kicks he ever gave anyone. Yeah. So it is the same dilemma as if you are a gunslinger, also a gunfighter in the Old West, yeah, and then you have to take a challenge because who's the fastest alive? Back to June 13th, Lee received a telegram from Ted Ashley, Warner Brothers, about Blood and Steel, no longer being the title from that will be henceforth known as Enter the Dragon. So Bruce Lee finally received his will, or they gave in that the movie has been called Enter the Dragon. Thursday, June the 28th. This was the second anniversary of when Bruce signed his Jordan Harvest contract with Bob Baker, serving as his witness. Oh, Bob Baker is here once again, his bodyguard, huh? And Despite Lee assuring Raymond Chow that he is still a Golden Harvest affiliate by making daily visit on the set of Taekwondo Heroes, Ray is aghast Raymond Chow, is aghast when reading an issue of the China Mail which states that Lee has scooped a per annum salary for Warner Brothers. What prompted Bruce's desire to boastfully reveal the news scoop was that Wednesday Variety review of The Big Boss, where the reviewer noted the mindlessness of it. Whether Lee learned about the review via his youngest brother phoning or faxing remains to be seen. However, Lee was more interested in the role of Lieutenant Hip in The Man with the Golden Gun. This would have been a way to accentuate his interest in ordering a golden Rolls-Royce. The Man with the Golden Gun is the second time that Roger Moore played James Bond 007 with a License to Kill in 1974. Meaning that Bruce Lee was interested in working together with the actual James Bond actor Roger Moore instead of George Lazenby. So that is one big hint, I think, that the complete story of George Lazenby, the script of Game of Death, and the meeting teaming up with Betty Ding Pei and Raymond Chow is a total frame. It's a frame. Yeah, this is Lieutenant Hip in the 1974 movie, and this is Roger Moore. You can now replace him with Bruce Lee, and you see the similarity. To star in a recent James Bond would have been a highlight in the career of anybody. Anybody. Every James Bond girl is famous up to this very day. So why concentrate on an older 4-year-old James Bond movie when there is a new movie coming up in 1973 and talk in the town that there is a role of an Asian character in it because you see this is politics here, and in 1970s the kung fu craze went on all around the world. In 1974, when that movie came out, Carl Douglas had his worldwide one-hit wonder. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Yeah, that's Lieutenant Hip, and it's no coincidence, Lieutenant Hip. But we will go into this quite soon. Lieutenant Hip is a fictional intelligence operative employed by the British Secret Intelligence Service SIS MI6. The character appeared on the 1974 James Bond film The Man with the Golden Gun, portrayed by the late Soon Taek-oh, and also appeared in the James Bond, etc., etc., etc. Let's get back. Thursday, July the 5th. Lo Wei, who directed Big Boss, and I have to once and for all claim he was most likely the head of Sun Yeong Triad. I'm sorry, it's hard to look at the screen at the same time. Sun Yeong Triad claims that Bruce threatened him with a knife in the Golden Harvest screening room where Lo's wife was present. Bruce counteracts that he wouldn't need to kill Lo with a weapon. And that is been verified by his widow, Linda Lee, that he had to sign a paper that he won't threaten Lo Wei again. He had a totally outburst then, and he was threatening him with a knife in front of several people. The police had been called, and the knife mysteriously disappeared because Linda Lee has put it somewhere else. Otherwise, Bruce Lee would have gone to jail. That was on July the 5th. He died officially on July the 20th. From the book of Davis Miller, The Tower of Bruce Lee. All these years later, a fog of rumor, myth, and mystery continued to surround the circumstances of Lee's death. Among the most popular stories are that he died from overtraining or from too much sex, or was murdered by angry kung fu masters, or the Chinese mafia, by evil herbalists, by a secret society of martial arts assassins, While the director of his first 2 movies, fewer than 3 weeks before his death, Lee has threatened the director, who'd been goading him for months with a knife hidden in his belt buckle by the head of the movie studio for which he worked, who, through the remainder of the century, would reap hundreds of millions of dollars from Lee's legend by rival Hong Kong movie magnates who were rumored to be jealous of and infuriated by Lee's success, by his lovers, by his wife, by his mythology, dragons angered that he had called himself Small Dragon, etc. So nobody knows, but many people claim that on July the 5th he has threatened the former producer with a knife, and he was a member, if not the dragon head of a triad. Happened 15 days before his death. Lee threatens movie director, headline in the Hong Kong Star. Bruce confronted Lowe in the screening room. Lowe claimed that his wife Louie was too scared to leave the room, but Linda claimed that Louie was brave enough to leave the room in order to reprimand Lee for his behavior. In the below Chinese article about Jet Li, it's mentioned that Louis, so the wife of Lo Wei, had an affair with Chow, and you see that I said that everything would get worse. Yeah. So the wife of a director for Golden Harvest, who has been threatened by a knife by Bruce Lee, has an affair, then was having a divorce 1 year later and having an affair with Raymond Chow. Yeah, you see the complications of it. Yeah, so everybody has something to hide. Everybody has secrets, and no one is honest in the entire. It's a satanic media industry. Yeah. That's the wife of Lo Wei, who just have been threatened by a knife. Yeah, and his wife had an affair with Raymond Chow. It's common in Chinese circles that the higher you get, the more girls, women, concubines, affairs, what else you have. It seems. Where to start? You can't trust anybody but your common sense. It will never end. It will never end if we go into every nitty-gritty. But I just want to show you that it's never ending. It's never ending. And I just want this to end. Yeah, but we have much to do before this. So many people say that he had conflicts with the power to be. His ownership of the knife indicates a very awareness that his physical condition was too weakened to intimidate. The cops never found it because Linda Lee has hid it, thus no arrest. 5 days later marked the final televised interview that Bruce gave. In the last and lost, it's very interesting, huh? In the last interview with Bruce Lee is lost. Yeah, can you imagine this? Somebody is withholding this. Yeah, obviously. You will never lose the last interview that somebody of this spectacular personality and worldwide fame has given. Yeah, it's lost. Oh, you have to believe it. He indirectly chastised Lowe. Wei had ties to the mob, as Jackie Chan attested in his 1998 book, which spilled the beans on Lowe being a top member of the Sun Yee-on Triad, which was headed by Charles Jung's dad, which is, of course, Charles Jung, the later husband of Betty Ting Pei, the accused lover of Bruce Lee. What a world. Mm-hmm. Jackie Chan starred in 1977 To Kill with Intrigue. It was made in South Korea because it was safer there. Since Jackie was on the run, you have to wonder how much help that Jimmy was during the making of The Killer Meteors, where Jackie played the villains, and I don't think that you will know all the stuff. Jackie had to flee to South Korea. You should remember that his 1998 autobiography contained a 1979 anecdote of himself escaping from Lo Wei, the one who'd been threatened by knife from Bruce Lee, yeah, being the would-be director of Fearless Hyena of one of his movies. So he wanted not to star in a movie which had been made by a high-ranking triad. Coincidentally, 1977 was a year when Golden Harvest finally completed Game of Death. One of the characters has a forename which was Bruce's nickname for James Coburn. Adding to the seediness of that, one of the actors from the original Game of Death, Chi Yuen, died of the same cause. That's the same guy from the last episode with the log fight. Died of the same cause, cerebral edema, as Bruce. Even the age is the same, 32 years and 8 months. It's just a coincidence. Just a coincidence. Yeah. Long lost. It's the same lost footage like the lost interview. I can assure you that will be found anywhere in the future. Yeah, the footage was never lost. Somebody with a brain, yeah, somebody who thinks straight, was never lost. They just didn't want to release it. How come they claim the footage was lost and out of the blue they released it on Bruce Lee's 15th anniversary? Yes, that's common sense. That's common sense. It was lost somewhere in the Golden Harvest archives. No, you don't lose anything which you can make millions and millions of money with it. So the author says, I suspect that Ray Chow had killed him off so that he was justified in not properly completing the movie. Had the press not found out that Bruce's corpse was located at Betty's apartment, the official story would have been that he relied too much on electric muscle stimulation, therefore foreshadowing the publicized fate of his co-star. So, speaking of 007, Raymond Chow could mention the headline that Bruce went from being in talks and actually signing from Golden Harvest to Golden Gun, or the man with the golden gun. Around July the 11th, we find another interesting character, the name of Joey Chen. Many people will say, oh no, not that Joey Chen. I tried to get in touch with Joey Chen, but I did not succeed. That's very sad, because I like to have one-to-one conversation with somebody and not any gossip and talk and what else. But I did not succeed. I have sent him messages, but he did not reply. But his latest entries on YouTube are 3 years old, and he's not the youngest anymore. So therefore, it could also be that he's ill, or he has been died or so. Yeah, you clearly see him in some test shots of Enter the Dragon. Yeah, so that must be around February to April 1973. That's Joey Chen on the left. Yeah. Joey Chen comes up on the 11th of July, comes up with interesting quotes. He said, there was a successor planned of Enter the Dragon, Game of Little Dragon, sequel to Enter Dragon pre-production, and he said there was a very famous producer in Hong Kong called King Hu. And the problem is that King Hu didn't speak any English, and Bruce Lee wanted to be his director. And therefore, Bruce sent King Hu and Joey Chen together to Italy to go to Rome. Once again, to Rome. You see, all roads lead to Rome. With the star director Carlo Ponti, who did direct Dr. Zhivago and any other stuff which is world famous. So he wanted to do a spaghetti western kung fu, yeah, like I told you last time, with like Clint Eastwood from King Hu. And Jackie Chan said that in the office, Bruce Lee had a terrible quarrel, an argument with Raymond Chow. Not with Lo Wei, with Raymond Chow, yeah. And Bruce Lee told him, that's his quote here, Bruce Lee, The Story of His Dad, Part 2, told him, if I die for any reason, pack your bag and go back to leave Hong Kong, go back to Singapore where you're safe. You see, I'm only quoting video material. I looked for months and months to any snippet. Yeah, and so Joey claims that Bruce Lee told him, if I die for any reason, pack your bag and leave Hong Kong, go back to Singapore where you're safe. And I think you can't disregard this Joey Chen, because it's obvious that he could be one of the intimate friends of Bruce Lee, that he started at the set. He told us in that movies or in that YouTube files that he wanted to have an Oscar. Remember the definite chief aim? He wanted to have $10 million in his possession, and he wanted to be the first Asian superstar in Hollywood. In Hollywood! Therefore, he wanted to have an Oscar, an Academy Award, officially Academy Award in Hollywood. And he wanted to have a combination with... He was on extremely friendly terms with Ingrid Bergman. And Bruce Lee's importance and greatest goal ever was to being greater than Steve McQueen. And he has achieved that. If you look retrospective, I think that Bruce Lee is much more famous than Steve McQueen these days. Yeah. So that Bruce wanted the help of Carlo Ponti to win him an Oscar. So that happened on July the 11th, and therefore on the day of the of the death of Bruce Lee, and this struck him to this very day. There is a 1974 Shaw Brothers film called The Drug Addicts. It was about a martial artist who is a drug addict, whose drug supplier, also a martial artist, thinks he's going too far with his addiction. This echoes what happened between Bruce Lee and his friend Bob Baker, the latter being his drugs contact in America. There is a scene in The Drug Addicts where the addict gets someone rehabilitated. In Robert Clouse' 1988 biography about Bruce Lee, he claimed that Bruce tried to get one of his friends to go through a rehabilitation program. Remarks. Also, Tom Bleecker writes about this in T-Money. It's a very interesting book. The Drug Addicts was directed by an actor named David Chang. He wanted to use Bruce House for his directional debut and tried to find him on July the 20th in 1973, the day when Bruce was declared dead. Strange coincidence. In an interview for Hong Kong Cinemagic, the film star T. Lung talked about the lengths that he went for his daring role in The Drug Addicts. He lost 15 pounds, but what he doesn't say is that he was actually mimicking the real life weight loss of Bruce Lee. What makes the movie even more perverse is that T. Lung makes many movies where he was cast alongside David Chang, both of whom were supposed to be Shaw Brothers' answer to Gordon Harvey's Bruce Lee. Like the legendary latter, T. Lung is a Wing Chun practitioner. Shaw Brothers writer and director Wong Jing claimed that T. Lung is one of the best Wing Chun experts. As such, he was the only person who could indirectly play Bruce Lee during his downward spiral. In example, the closest we got to seeing Bruce go through a fat Elvis phase, although you could say that his fall from grace has more in common with Karen Carpenter of the Carpenters fame. Karen Carpenter began dieting. Yeah, the Carpenters, all I have to do is dream. Yeah, this is a music company, a music group. She slimmed down and her health was in jeopardy. The lead singer of the Carpenters, the Grammy-winning band, died in February the 4th, 1983 of heart failure with her long-year struggle with anorexia. She was, like Bruce Lee, 32. In its stripped manner, The Drug Addicts is much of an alternative Bruce exploitation film as Bloody Ring, a movie which conjures the image and essence of Bruce Lee, even though the main actor's stage name isn't Bruce. With Tai Lung, it goes beyond having the same hair and clothes. He even wears the same sunglasses and adopts the same mannerisms. One step too far goes even further, with the film's soundtrack having resorted to borrowing snippets from Lalo Schifrin's score for Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon. The Shaw Brothers movie company would later produce a movie about Bruce's relationship with Betty Ting-pei that also went out of its own way to depict Bruce's drug use. Ironically, Linda Lee wasn't depicted in this movie, despite telling the Hong Kong press, quote unquote, "Betty frequently came to our home for dinner and the three of us would sit and enjoy Chinese food." Oh, you have to believe anything, huh? Bruce's relationship with Betty was supposed to be an open secret for quite some time, but she claimed as an inquit that the last time she had seen him before July 20 was in June. This would be after Bruce went to America to medically assess his well-being after a near-death experience. Perhaps Betty saw a way to bond with him, seeing as how she had a similar experience, except self-inflicted in a suicidal manner circa December 1972. The problem with his purported relationship with her was that he was Hong Kong's most photographed movie star, and yet we don't see photos of the pair in 1973 like in 72. Actor and gangster Fan Mei Sheng, 40K Triad, claimed that sometime before Bruce's death, Betty had already moved on from dating him to dating Hong Kong's leading jockey. So the entire story of we went to Betty Ting's stay apartment to talk about the game of Script Dead, and later on we will move to the Miramar Hotel to visit George Lazenby for the James Bond, falls apart. Already. And we're not into the death yet. Bruce Doctor Donald Langford claimed in a telephone interview that he never believed the official story of July the 20th because it seems like a way to increase Betty's stock in the movie world. This makes sense since her association with Bruce's death resulted in 1974 being her most prolific year as an actress. Yeah, everybody has a profit in the death of Bruce Lee. Yeah, he's more worth dead than alive. According to Bruce's friends and colleague Charles Lowe, Bruce spent his final months flirting with women who worked at a Japanese restaurant that they visited, which does not surprise me, because, his first girlfriend... So, Bruce was more interested in Sandra Lang than Patty. Sandra had not been interviewed enough about Bruce Lee, despite being the last woman to be photographed with him when he appeared on Hong Kong TV for the final time in living color on July 10th. Yeah, why? Because that interview officially had been lost. Sure, you lose the last interview of the deceased world star. It's lost. Sure, you have to believe it. He was interviewed by Ivanhoe, which reminds me of that night called Ivan.
Oh. Yeah. That's a night?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. Really?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this.
Yeah. In Scotland. Oh, in Scotland. No. Please. In Ivanhoe. Noble families, nobility in England. Yeah. Oh, look. Norman knights and prelates seeking the hospitality of Cedric. Yes, that's your story.
Yeah. Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Yes. So I hope that we are through, because next time we will have a hard time going into the final days, and then I think you really see that you can't trust anybody. I'm doing this for nobody and on no subject anymore. It's clearly all negative. It's all clearly all satanic. Everybody is having an affair. Everybody is only in for the money. Because the problem is that you can't trust anybody. Tom Bleecker, who had officially access to many of the papers and medical journals about Bruce Lee, because he was 2 years married with Bruce Lee's ex-wife Linda Lee, he had access to extensive documents, paperwork, and personal medical records detailing Bruce's history. Bleecker shows the procedure document with removing his sweat glands. Bruce was accompanied by Betty and not by Linda. Yeah, it's where do you want to start? Yeah, but I don't think that his heat stroke or else is likely, because you see of the remarks of the mirrored room and all the stuff, and so many people have a hard time figuring out what could be the cause. Could it be his cortisone injections? And the problem is that it leaves too many open questions. What we can see is that there are many people hunting after the money that Bruce Lee has earned, or his company has earned. Yeah. So he had cortisone injections. He was becoming more forgetful, irritable, and paranoid. He had a gun smuggled into Hong Kong into a jar of protein powder by Bob Baker, Bruce's stunt guy, who also supplied Bruce with his hash, and he was present at the San Francisco Xavier. Yeah. And 9 days before he died, so supposedly on the 11th of July, he said to Linda Lee, "I'm not sure how much longer I can keep this up." And it's up to your imagination and interpretation what it been meant by this. The only thing that I can say is I found a book about a certain Mrs. Lee, and I leave it up to your interpretation who that could be, Mrs. Lee. If somebody says, "In case you're interested, your husband was murdered. From what I can tell, a whole lot of people are trying to cover this up, which is all right with me. But Mrs. Lee, my reputation as a newspaper man and author aside, I have a real aversion to being lied to and being treated like the village idiot by a peep who thinks she is a hell of a lot smarter than she is. So believe me when I tell you I'm through playing nice. It's interesting that in the Western world everybody points the finger to Raymond Chow and Betty Ting Pei. But I have read some articles who say it's opposite in the Asian world. Many people are putting the finger to Linda Lee and the manager of Bruce Lee, Adrian Marshall. So we in the West, we are just getting one side of the coin, and we will never figure out how it has been achieved that Bruce Lee could not fulfill his dream of becoming a Hollywood celebrity. The only thing I can guarantee is that we're living in a satanic world. So I would like to close it down because I'm so sorry that it takes me so long to talk about a 50-year-old death, but you will see what's coming up soon. In the end, you will see that it draws such a picture. In the end, you will see it draws such a picture that everything that the mainstream media is putting in your face is a total lie. Not starting, but incorporating the Kennedy assassination, incorporating the moon landing ritual, incorporating the Manson family, and soon to be discovered the Bruce Lee death happening on July the 20th of 1973. So, signing off, looking for what to next time, and handing it over to my beloved brother Brett.
Thank you, Michael, again for going through all of the effort to put this script together and bringing us just so many facts of, well, where we came from, frankly, in this modern era. And we're speaking of, within our lifetimes, Michael and I, and before then, of course, but not long before then. Definitely something that everyone can grasp in terms of recent events in a shorter period of time, as opposed to looking at the very, very long term 2,000 years of past history up to the time of Christ. And, certainly we'll get back to that topic at another date. But for now, it's very interesting to see how this picture is coming together because, really, truly, it's not any different than what Jesus had told us, when he was alive, according to the witness in the Bible, where he said that this is an adulterous and wicked generation, a generation of vipers. So we're only exploring that in terms of the modern times, but at a later date we get back into the old times, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But of course, I think that fewer people would be interested in that, Michael. I think they're much more interested in what's going on today. And, one of the members of my family, my grandfather, he had a bad habit of trying to destroy all the old, everything old just needs to be thrown out, and that's something I don't necessarily agree with. I think that it's very important to recognize, especially, when it comes down to our actual faith, where we came from and what our forebears that gave us the knowledge of truth, what did they believe? What did they hold to? And I think that applies to our life today, that we should definitely keep track of these things and consider everything. Put it together in your own mind. Do your own research, as Michael has said so many times. And I want to thank you, Michael, for bringing us this far. And I know that we got a long ways to go yet, but we're getting closer to seeing this picture develop the way that you're suggesting it will. And certainly it is a very, very fascinating study. So please, dear brethren, keep focused. I know I try to, and it's tough. It's tough because there's just so much. Oh, all these different roles that these people play in this account of Bruce Lee. And I know that it's going to be really interesting the way Michael has put this together. So I want to thank you for listening, and I'm welcoming you back next time. God willing, we'll be back, and the internet will still be open, that is. We don't even know at this point, but we just work day by day and hope for the best here. And God will always provide a way for his people. So hope to see you then, and blessings in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Bye-bye.